Good morning.
Good
It's
morning.
9 o'clock, bright and early on this beautiful Friday morning. It is actually a nice sunny day, and even though we are still from our homes and offices and doing remote and virtual meetings, which is certainly a topic of discussion today, it is quite a nice day outside, and so I hope some of you find some time to enjoy the sunshine today and this weekend. It is my pleasure to welcome you. My name is James Kniblick, Director of Development of the College of the Canyons Foundation. And this is another Chancellor Circle virtual business briefing hosted by the College of the Canyons Foundation. You know, we've been doing these robust series of Zoom calls for our business community since April. And we hope that these have served as a resource and a benefit for your business. And of course, gathering together like this is a great reminder of why the Chancellor Circle exists. It's because we care about each other and our businesses, and ultimately the future of this community through the supporting education. Chancellor Circle is more than simply a group of businesses or community leaders. Together, we support innovation and provide life-changing opportunities for students at College of the Canyons. So I want to thank you, particularly the members that are on the call today, for making it possible, for doing so many things of the last several years, but even as recently as providing laptops to students who are struggling to stay enrolled in a remote education. You've helped us fund First Year Promise. You've funded mini grants year over year for new innovative ideas for faculty. And the list literally goes on and on. So I just want to remind you that your support is making a difference, and I want to thank you for that. For those of you that are new to Chancellor Circle, I would invite you to visit our website, cocfoundation.com, and learn some more about what we do. I want to thank you and let you know that today's chat will be shared on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and we'll be sending out that link later today. So today's topic includes an impressive lineup of panelists. But before we get started, let me take care of a few housekeeping items. In just a couple minutes, I'll make sure that everyone is muted other than our panelists and moderator, and this will just help us have a more high quality experience. But especially during our question and answer time, feel free to unmute yourself or use that chat function to ask a question. A few of you have called in, so feel free to ask a question if you're just over the phone, and you'll want to press *6 to unmute yourself. I want to announce what our next business briefing will include. Just about a month away, August 28th, will include an economic development roundtable discussion with panelists including Jason Crawford of the City of Santa Clarita, Holly Schroeder, President and CEO of the Santa Clarita Valley Economic Development Corporation, and Jeff Forrest, Vice President of Economic and Workforce Development here at College of the Canyons. And this presentation will be moderated by Mr. Joe Klocko. For those of you on the computer today, we'll be sharing this link to register in a few minutes, and I would invite you to take a couple minutes while you're on the call today and go ahead and register so that that's taken care of. Today's presentation is going to include 3 panelists, including our moderator. Our panelists include Keri, Becki, and Gary. All very knowledgeable in this subject matter and moderated by Fred. And that's all I'm going to say. They're wonderful people. Fred is going to do a great job introducing them in a couple minutes. So folks, that's all I have for you today. It's my pleasure to kick it off. I'm going to introduce Jill Milady, who is a dear friend of ours, also our Chancellor Circle Committee Chair, as well as the COC Foundation Board Co-Chair. Jill is a business owner and alumna of College of the Canyons, and Jill will be saying a few words as well as introducing our Chancellor, Dr. Van Hook. Go ahead, Jill.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here at our ninth virtual business briefing series. We have educated, informed, and helped literally hundreds of businesses, and I'm very proud of this series. Thank you for being here this morning. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I do want to introduce our Chancellor, Dr. Diane Van Hook, who is here with us this morning, and she will be saying a few words, and we're thankful to her for the idea of helping business owners and engage our Chancellor Circle members in these virtual business briefings. This was her idea, and I'm very proud of the success of it. So Dr. Van Hook, if you could please say a few words, and then we'll get our business briefing moving forward. Thank you, and have a great meeting.
Thank you very much. Am I good, James? Do I need to do anything else?
Sounds great.
Okay. I'm actually on the, yeah. So I am so passionate about workforce training. I am in community colleges because of the impact that the colleges, especially at the community college level, can have on shaping the viability of our business community and helping businesses, especially now as they shift from old ways of doing things to new ways of doing things, as they shift from what they used to do to what they're going to need to do, and creating opportunities for our residents to be gainfully employed, to be contributing to the health of the Santa Clarita Valley. None of what, and I came to College of the Canyons for that reason, by the way. Took me 3 times. I applied here 3 times. 3rd time was the charm. And I did it because back in 1988, most of where we have commercial and business activity today was vacant land. Some of it had cows, some of it had goats, some of it had onions. And all I could see was economic vitality when I looked at that. And so it has been an absolute privilege to be able to work with the multitude of businesses, entities, and associations over the years to figure out how we can come together and create better and more to support business development and get beyond only competition. Working together, we always do more than we can alone, any of us. So it's been a pleasure to have the Chancellor Circle focus on helping businesses. I'm incredibly proud of our partnerships with the city of Santa Clarita. Many cool things that have evolved over time with the work we've done with VIA in particular, back in the old days of John Hoskinson and Connie Warden Roberts and Luca Rossi, with endeavors that are co-initiated with the Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber, and many, many businesses. I know this is a difficult time. I have people every day call me and say, I don't like this. And I say, well, what do you think? I do get up every morning and do a happy dance and say, woohoo, I get to go sit in my conference room and my office and look at myself. Well, you know, I'm not real excited about it either, but every challenge affords many opportunities. And it is with that attitude and optimism that I welcome you to today's webinar. I haven't been able to participate directly in some of them, but I have been able to watch them. And the interesting thing is, it's kind of like a kid going to the Khan Academy. The more they watch that presentation on fractions, the more they understand. So I keep watching some segments over and over, and actually some of the earlier segments I understand better now and have led the way to things I wouldn't have thought of at that time. I want to thank all of our participants for sharing your time. I know how valuable it is, and for being willing to look at all of these characters on Zoom this morning and see how what you're saying individually and together can inspire a thought, an idea, and better that, some action. Thank you very much. I look forward to listening.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hook, for those words. And it is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Fred Arnold. Fred is the brand manager of American Family Funding, a local entrepreneur as well, owner of 360 Executive Suites. Fred currently serves on the College of the Canyons Foundation Board of Directors, as well as the Child and Family Board and the Santa Clarita Valley Disaster Coalition Board. Fred served as the chairman of the SCV Chamber of Commerce in 2013, and often speaks to businesses, students, nonprofit groups on the economy and the state of the housing market. Fred has hosted multiple TV and radio programs on both SCB TV as well as KHTS. And most recently, Fred has continued to help the Chancellor Circle develop some of these benefits and opportunities for businesses. We're very grateful for him. Fred is passionate about the College of the Canyons. He serves our students in supporting to make the college a vital resource for our community. So I'm going to hand it over to Fred to moderate the discussion with our panelists, and thank you again. Hope you're muted, Fred.
There we go. All right, thanks, James. You know, looking at all the backgrounds, it's rather entertaining. I love all of them, except every time I see Ed Masterson's, he's got USC Trojan behind him. So go Bruins. Anyhow, go Cougars, right? So I'm going to start with Keri Aaver. What a special name, because she's at the college. She's the Director of Job Placement at College of the Canyons. Keri Aaver moved into the Career and Workforce Development for Academia 13 years ago. She was successful in developing Santa Clarita's America's Job Center into a center to watch for best practices in the LA County workforce development area. Keri was responsible for the strategic development of CLC's job placement department and trains new job teams of job developers each year to empower job seekers, including students, in gaining employment and supporting employers in fulfilling their job positions. Keri, and I love this, actively shares her passion for helping all people to live extraordinary strength-based lives. So welcome, Keri. Next is Gary Saenger. Gary Saenger is the founder and president of Saenger Associates, an executive recruiting and consulting firm. Saenger Associates is a retained executive search firm based here in Los Angeles and enjoys strategic partnerships across various industries. Gary is a member of Provisors, but even better, United States Air Force veteran, a board member of College of the Canyons Foundation, board member of SCV EDC, and a past board member of Single Mothers Outreach. Welcome, Gary. And Becki Robb. Becki Robb perhaps has one of the more challenging jobs that you can ever imagine as a senior director of Princess Cruises Holland America Group. Becki leads and manages the shoreside operations of the company's corporate offices both in Santa Clarita and Seattle, supporting the largest cruise lines in the world, Princess Cruises, Holland America, Seabourn, and P&O Australia. In her current role, which we're excited to hear about, Becki is leading the company's Back to Business work group to define the various phases, deliverables, risks, and assumptions to opening the office buildings, creating a safe and healthy environment. So proud to be with these three amazing individuals. And I'm going to start with you, Becki, because people around the world are probably wondering, because of so many challenges the cruise industry has faced. And you're putting together this special roadmap, and it addresses, Becki, when to return, who to return, and how does returning to work look like to Princess Cruises here in the Santa Clarita Valley?
Thanks, Fred, and thanks everyone for having me. So let's start with this. So as companies are preparing the workplace for their employees to return, several factors contribute to the introduction of this new environment. So when developing a reopening roadmap, as Fred mentioned, there's things to consider. Who to return, when to return, and what does the return look like? So let's start with when to return. So the worst thing employers can do is to bring their employees back into a workplace without a plan. So whether they admit it or not, most employees have concerns about returning to the office. So employers can address these concerns by creating a detailed return to work roadmap that lays out clear guidelines and makes employees safe and has a priority of safe and wellness of their employees. So there's a number of pieces in the plan that we need to include. One is ensuring the proper sanitation of all your spaces and the introduction of new policies to support this. An example would be a clean desk policy, where the employee comes in first 15 minutes, they do a sanitation of their space, and then the last 15 minutes prior to departing, they do another sanitation of their space. Another key factor is regulatory allowance to open. Basically, this is what we have to follow from the public health order, the Cal OSHA requirements, as well as CDC's recommendations on opening the businesses. Next, we think about business need and demand. So what does that look like? So instead of requiring everyone back into the office at once, recommendation is to do a partial return by department's need. Again, each organization is going to be different, and therefore the business need is going to be different. So you have to take a look at that. Location readiness. Are your buildings equipped? Are they ready for the employees? Again, this is all based on your public health order and your state requirements. Assessment and exit strategy. A risk assessment should be completed. What does this identify? It identifies the potential events that will negatively impact your individuals, your assets, as well as the environment. So the risks that are analyzed help determine the tolerability of the risk, and then it helps your various factors that should be considered when remedying the risk. Along the lines of the risk assessment, an exit strategy is required should an outbreak occur. So big question is, are we all prepared to manage an outbreak should it happen within your organization? So let's talk about who returns. So this is not physically the individual person who returns, but more of the dependency factors related to who returns. So your physical workspace. A capacity review of your buildings and your floors should be conducted to determine the capacity and population of the employees returning, because this has to include your 6-foot distancing requirement. This also helps you determine your future footprint and ultimately validating your ROI of your business space. Again, going back to business need and demand, are there any positions based on the current or future operational requirements that must come back immediately, or can they continue to work from home and come back at a later date? Again, each organization business will be different in this aspect. So another thing to consider is your employees' point of view and their flexibilities in certain circumstances. So again, employee engagement is huge. Engage the employee in advance on what the environment will look like. You need to explain to them what you want them to do, because you want them to have trust in the workspace and to know that it's safe. You want to communicate navigating the social, your physical space, and what it's going to look like, along with all the distancing requirements. This will help impact their day-to-day and understand what they're going to be moving forward with and setting expectations. So creating a safe environment. By communicating all of this in advance and sharing the new health and safety measures, we hope it will ease the fears of some of these employees who have a fear of contracting COVID when they go back to the workplace. Again, we all know this is a real challenge for employers. We're all facing this today. Reduced service capacities. So this impacts people in many different ways. Mass transit limitations, closed or reduced childcare services, schools not being open at the time. It's important to remain understanding about these challenges that the employees are facing as a result of the quarantine. So leadership should keep an open mind and can be flexible with individual circumstances. Employee perception. It's working from home. It's working. Why do I need to go back to the office? I mean, we're all talking about this right now. So despite what many employers previously believed, working from home has been successful, and it's been proven it can be done. Mm-hmm. So what does the return itself look like? Again, there's a lot of pieces in this. New policies. As we mentioned, most organizations will be implementing several new policies and behavioral expectations, both from an HR perspective, facilities, health, and safety perspective. So this is where a solid change management plan is needed. It's communicated, implemented, and then trained. Again, going back to your physical workplace, due to the public health order, the way we operated in the past is not how we're going to operate in the future. So what does this look like? Each organization will need to review their own operational plan or the return to work plan and determine how this suits their needs. What we've done is establish a committee or a working group, which creates a cross-functional team of employees from various departments that will help develop this unified plan. Communicate openly and honestly. So transparency is huge, and keeping employees engaged while still at home or upon returning to the office builds trust and helps manage the misinformation that's circulating out there. The more engaged your employees are, the more effective they are. Employees who do not know or understand what's happening are typically less engaged and less productive. So returning, this is the last phase. So returning to a phased approach with a smaller capacity. So what you need to do is, we're all anticipating not all employees are going to be returning to the office at a full-time capacity. So what does a hybrid approach look like? There'll be a % of employees working from home, working from the office, and both working from home and the office. So best practices have shown returning in a phased approach has allowed the organization to prepare better. For example, you can start with a small percentage, maybe 25% coming back with the staggered start times, and this helps minimize the contact. Again, employers should not feel rushed to open their doors and bring their employees back into the office. It's best to err on the side of caution and phase employees back until the CDC informs the businesses otherwise. And there we go.
Thank you, Becki. I have a follow-up question to that, and that is, have you run into a situation where individuals are in cubicles, and how to extend them up and or every other cubicle? Has that been an issue, and have you evaluated that? Because there's many people that have big work areas that are in cubicles, and they possibly can be enclosed off, similar to the two offices.
Yeah, so our environment is cubicle driven as well. And we've taken a look at a lot of companies going back into the office don't have the funds to do a reorganization and change their floor plans. So what we've done is we're creating the capacity overlay that looks at how everybody's sitting and making sure the distancing is 6 feet. So we stagger all the workspaces. So instead of having a pod, for example, of 20 desks, it'll cut down to 10 desks and stagger those spaces. So people still have the social distancing acceptable.
Right. You mentioned something interesting, and that is a clean desk policy. With the financial firm I work for, clean desk means getting all the financial information off your desk, so that nobody, now it's good because then they have to clean their desk. Now they actually see their desk.
It's true.
Certainly has a double meaning that we never thought would. So thank you for that. We're going to come back with a follow-up question on ROI. I'm going to jump to Gary Saenger, Saenger Associates. And Gary, recruiting has changed. Executive searches has changed. And when you're hiring somebody and paying them very, very well, how is that recruiting process shifted? Because typically you fly someone in and get the feel for who they are by body language, by how they act, by lunch, all those different things. How has that changed?
For some companies, it hasn't changed. And for some companies, if it hasn't changed, they're probably not doing very well. I would tell you that best practices for our clients, and we're busy with clients. And again, our target market is anything to do with manufacturing, supply chain, anything to do with making widgets, making products. We especially focus on industrial, aerospace, and consumer products. But the virtual side of this is what's changed a great deal. To do things virtually, and I'm very much surprised, quite frankly. I deal primarily, and my day job is doing headhunting on specific exclusivity for our corporate clients that are essential businesses. But we've been able to do an extremely large amount of executive recruiting virtually. So for example, picture that you have a 100,000 square foot facility, and it's either a distribution center or it's a workspace for manufacturing products. Imagine that you have somebody on the other coast, and you, the boss, or you, the HR person, are walking through that plant with your cell phone, with the video on, and having that interview, having that discussion, having that machine, and tell me, Ms. or Mr. Candidate, what do you see? Tell me about it. What's your experience? Give me your version of what you see as terms of opportunities. We've hired several folks in these last 6 months. We've not had one search canceled, where in fact, going through that, and people have been hired at the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 level. So if you're serious about hiring, that usually means you've decided as a company that you're going to survive. You're going to move forward. And those companies are taking advantage of the past where final candidates had 4 or 5 other offers. We're not seeing that right now. We're seeing candidates getting 1, maybe 2 offers. So when you go from 2% unemployment to the 20+% unemployment, the demand is is smaller, but the supply is larger. So if you're serious about hiring senior management executives, I would want to request a few things of you to consider. I think that you must have anybody involved with that recruiting process be very intimate to your business plan. Send your best managers, send your best executives for doing the recruiting. If you, the hiring boss, or you, the executive, are too busy, what are you showing to that candidate in terms of he or she trying to consider that company as a place to work? I think that the company needs to really clearly define what you need in a job, what you need in a position. What are the musts? We've got databases of 100,000 plus people. And so if I'm going to review a few thousand resumes, what are the musts? Where can I take those few thousand down to 100, down to a few dozen, down to 5 or 10? Because this is what I need to have to be more likely to be successful. So quantitatively, what do you want? What do you need in terms of the kind of education, the kind of job skills, the size of company that you may have been? Qualitatively, you know, how should he or she play? How should you behave? How should you operate? Oftentimes companies get as simple as saying, look, we don't want to hire any jerks. I think that if you had someone to take to dinner, to go have a beer with, are you comfortable with that person in doing it? The idea of what's your company pitch, being clear about what it is your company is. What was it? What is it? What's it trying to become? What's that pitch that says, look, you know, I, Gary Saenger, if I'm a job candidate, would like to work there. I'd like to be a part of that. I don't think a lot of companies spend much time in figuring out who they are and what their real attractive features might be. I would assure that my hiring managers have a little bit of flexibility in terms of compensation. You know, at a $200,000 level, are you going to let $10,000 get in the way of hiring the right person? I would encourage you not to have that to be the case. Personal touch, you the hiring manager, you the boss, you the HR person, 24/7, are you available to be in touch and to be in contact and to answer questions of those candidates? I think that 24/7, and whether it's by Zoom that you're doing most of your interviews, or by Skype, or by FaceTime, or however it is, how does that person like to communicate? And if it's 6 in the morning on Saturday and they want to do a follow-up, are you available to be able to do it? Final point, don't settle. I know someone, I started a new search just 2 days ago, and this lady who was running the HR function in partnership with the president of this division, she said, you know, I've got too many of my hiring managers that have the philosophy that says, look, I know somebody. Now you've got a $100 million company, for example, and you're trying to hire an executive to run that. For a couple percent difference, you are getting a couple $1 million worth of change, a couple $1 million worth of improvement. So I would say play the numbers game, know what you're looking for, show that personal touch, and virtually, you know, make this thing happen. I'm really pleased to be here today. And Barry Cohn, is that a box of baseballs behind you? I like that a great deal, being a Dodger fan.
Are those all the baseballs that were hitting the Houston Astros players in the last couple of days? Anyhow. So Gary, something resonated with me really, really well, and that was you have to be clear on your purpose. And I think this time requires us to refocus on what that position is, and because you have a finite amount of time to interview this candidate, and be clear on what you want, and be clear on what your company's forward focus is. So in a way, you're telling me that it goes back to really going deep into your game plan, if you will, on who you are as a company. Joe
Kelly's name's on this. in the spring of 2018 with a buddy of mine and we were there for a few days, and I got lucky to get Joe Kelly's signature. So thank you. We didn't rehearse that, but what's your game plan in terms of your company? You know, as we just heard, in terms of the game plan to be ready for COVID, not spread the, not spread the virus. Guys, you especially are the worst in terms of wearing masks, so do that. So I think the game plan for hiring, the game plan for what it is that you want to do, we're very busy right now, as I'm saying, and I think succession planning is a big deal as far as what it is that you want to do. Now's the time because the market's easier out there. So if you're trying to upgrade your team, if you are in fact trying to take those B minuses and C's and D's off of your team and replace them with A's, the game plan, Fred, you're right on. You know, what's the priority? What does it take to be successful here? I would highly encourage you to get your best folks, your best managers, the best executives to lead that effort. You know, I'm thinking about Mookie Betts. He didn't come here by having talked probably only to the bench players. I suspect that Turner and Kershaw and a few others, send your best forward if you're out there trying to upgrade people on your team and have them join you.
Great analogy. Thank you, Gary. Keri. So Keri, I'm very excited to hear about this this program that you have going on. And I said it wrong earlier. It's not job seeker, it's job speaker. So share with us this program that you're so excited to roll out at the college and how it's going to make a difference for so many employers and so many different students and alumni for College of the Canyons.
Well, I am really excited about it. And part of the reason I'm excited about it is before I came to the college, I was always self-employed. So I've been a small business owner. I've had international corporations, local corporations, online companies. And actually what I do now with the college and what I was doing running the America's Job Center is like my sweet spot. I love this stuff. And I love that we're moving into this age of save the employer money, you know, show them to different processes and ways to do things that are efficient, effective, make it easier for everybody, actually increases equity, you know, for the companies to get a more diverse candidate of pools into their positions. And so the two things I'll cover is the job speaker, and then Fred's going to have me go on to part 2 on that about recruitments. But so I want to pull up, if I could, just so you can see it in the background. Can I share my screen, Fred? Is that all right? Because I can show just a quick glance at what job.
Yeah, I think you can now. James is freeing that up.
Go ahead, Keri.
Okay, let's see. So this is the it's actually for employers. It's called Career Connect, powered by Job Speaker. The students know it as Job Speaker, and what this is basically, you know, it's an online job board of sorts. But the difference is that we have populated this. This is a regional effort. So the Career Connect by Job Speaker is utilized by the colleges in our region from San Luis Obispo down through Ventura, across and over up to Antelope Valley. There's other colleges in the, in California using it, and actually throughout the US using it too. But our focus is on the students and alumni in our region. And what we've done is we've uploaded the students and the alumni in our colleges, in our community colleges. Some of the colleges uploaded going 10 years back, some uploaded the past 3 years. But you know, as an employer, when I was running the America's Job Center, the employers were most excited when I would host a recruitment forum, and they would get a lot of really good qualified candidates. So with colleges, sometimes our employers, you want, you know, individuals that don't have a lot of experience. Maybe they're getting work experience, they're looking for entry-level positions. And then other times you want those candidates that have more qualifications. They've been out working for a couple of years. And so I felt it's really important that we stay connected to our alumni so that we can help make those connections to our employers. So I'm going to stop sharing this because it'll distract me. But that's a little bit of what it looks like from the employer's perspective. And students can search through this. It'll pull up the ones in and around Santa Clarita before it pulls up any outside of the region. You can actually decide where you want to market your positions when you set up an account on Job Speaker. You can choose all the colleges in our region if you want, or just College of the Canyons. It's really up to you. But you can also, if you host your own recruitment events.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's beautiful.
Oops, I'm getting an echo all of a sudden. I'm not sure why, but. Okay, am I the only one hearing that? So if you want to host your own recruitment event, you can post events and things like that onto JobSpeaker too. So, you know, once Princess Cruises starts bringing people back and then says, oh gosh, it's growing again and we need to start adding people, they'll be able to post that event right onto JobSpeaker for their own, you know, recruitment that they're doing, or to simply just post their jobs. They can post jobs, internships, and events basically on JobSpeaker. So we're really excited about that for all of those reasons, because it's already got the students and the alumni in it. As the students come into the college now, they're automatically uploaded into the system, and we're talking to them about this from the time they start the college, you know, at the college until they are in the stage where they're completing their studies. And then our Career Centers actually supports, and this is not intended, I guess it sounds like a sales pitch, but it's so you understand what we do in the Career Center is that we do serve students and alumni too. So students that go through College of the Canyons, when they leave, because a lot of our students transfer and they get a bachelor's degree, go to CSUN or some of the surrounding colleges, and then after that they come back to Santa Clarita and they're looking for employment in and around Santa Clarita. And so our arms are open for them to come back. Maybe they want to upskill, get another certificate or something, but our Career Center is there to say, okay, now you're back in Santa Clarita, let's help get you connected to the, you know, the employers that have the positions that you want and that you're qualified for. So we encourage them to keep in touch with us even after they've left. So.
Well, you're on a roll. I love that. And I think it transitions very comfortably into, or naturally into, how can you help businesses are on this call right now, right? The Chancellor Circle is about collaboration of businesses. How can your department help businesses find the right alumni, students, and job seekers in the Santa Cruz Valley? How can you customize something?
Well, you know, that's, you know, I do get excited about this stuff because I really love this part of my job, right? Every employer, and I think it's important that employers, you know, that we make it as easy as possible for them. We encourage our students to work with, diverse populations, go to employer websites, go to job boards, work with recruiters, that should all be part of their job search and finding employment. And with employers, what we try to do is we look and see, what are your existing processes and how can we help you get the word out about your positions, and how can we directly source or, you know, reach out to do outreach to our students and alumni to find those candidates for those positions you're looking for. And the way we do that, and some of the things that we offer the employers is, you know, really driven by the employer processes and their needs. So for example, LA County. So LA County is a big employer, obviously. They have many, many different departments. This is a large organization. So for them, some of their departments are still in hiring freezes. Others are currently hiring and have essential employees they need to fill right now. So what we're doing with them is we've designed a day-long summit, a career summit, because there's such a large, behemoth, such a large organization. And from 9 to 4 on August 12th, every half hour, a different department is going to be coming on talking about what types of positions do we have in the Department of Child and Family Services? What types of positions do we have in our, Department of Mental Health? Going through all the different departments so that job seekers can go there and find out more about the employer. There's also, they're highlighting, their HR department is talking about their hiring processes, how it works, how do you get in the queue for the jobs. So it's very customized for LA County in what, we talked about, over a couple meetings, we really talked about, dove in on how we could help most. And there'll be other different types of events that will come out of that, but that's kind of a kickoff to get the word out to the people. And it's open to the public too. So when we do events, typically we do sourcing or we do outreach to our students and alumni. But when we do any type of recruitment or event like that, we like to open it up to the public for many reasons. But ultimately, I need to serve the employers. I need people to show up that are qualified, that are going to fill your positions, and we want to have cast a broad net to make sure that we get you a large number of candidates. So that's one way we can do it. Another thing that we do is we do online dedicated recruitments for our employers. So I'll use U.S. Census as an example. So U.S. Census, back in the fall before Corona and everything happened, was looking to hire a lot of people to go out door knocking and collecting census information. And so back then we hosted recruitments on campus. Well, obviously right now, they could come, but it'd be one person in a room on a camera anyways, and the students would be coming in too. So it's even easier now for us to host an online recruitment for our employers, where we again talk to the employer and see, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do an employer meetup where we have a time frame where your recruiters are in there, and as students come in and if they have an interest in a certain type of position, then we put them into a breakout room with your recruiter or your staff member from that department to talk to them about those positions? Or do you want to do a presentation, say at 9 o'clock with Q&A? And we run these things through JobSpeaker also, so that if there's individuals that want to participate in it and they register in advance, you can go into JobSpeaker and you can look at their resumes and their qualifications, and they can look at the positions you have open beforehand. So another thing that we offer is and I would say maybe about 30%, maybe more of our employers like this, is they'll have us do the sourcing. They'll have us do outreach and find candidates that fit specific qualifications for positions that they want. And we will get those, individuals. We'll send links to you, or we'll have them apply through JobSpeaker, and you pick and choose who you want to interview with. And then we can set the day up for you so that you have, one after another of the candidates that you've chosen to interview with online. We can help you in any of these. We can help moderate if you want, or we can just sit back and sort of be technical support for you. So it really depends on the employer and how you like to interact with your, with your potential candidates. But we really do know our students and alumni and where they're coming from and what their comfort level is, what's going to appeal to them to find out more about your company. And, as Fred was saying earlier, one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping people to really design extraordinary lives. I feel like I've had a really extraordinary life so far. I've got a lot more ahead of me, but and a big part of that is finding that person job fit, helping employers find the right candidate, and helping our students and alumni get into the right company in the right position, on a path to really having their own extraordinary life. Do you want me to continue? I could go.
Hope you muted, Fred.
There we go. I think our responsibility as employers and professionals is to help individuals. No disrespect to my dad, but not make it your dad's company. Maybe make it that plus. What are we doing to not only attract great talent, but what perks do we have that are different? Because it's different than it was 10 years ago and 15 years ago and 20 years ago. The way we approach everything, And so I love that, is helping others have an extraordinary life, because a job can be a job, or a job can be a fantastic career. And I think it's up to us to define that as leaders in the industry. I'm going to jump over to.
Oops, sorry, can I add one more thing? Because I forgot, you just reminded me of that. So, and Fred and I were talking about this the other day, yesterday, I guess. Another thing that we're starting to do now, once students are starting to come back in the fall, is we're going to be doing career conversations. And what career conversations really are is, conversations with employers, so that our students and alumni can see, like, Fred and I, for example, we're talking about this, is that we could do an event showcasing his company where we record it and we talk about what's it like, what does a career path in your industry look like, what are the opportunities, where can a student go with this, what types of opportunities does he have within his individual company, and what's he looking for right now, and who's the candidate that gets chosen for the jobs, what are the qualities they're looking for. And then we can record that. It's not a long presentation. 15 minutes is probably a sweet spot for something like that, to pack a lot of information into 15 minutes. If it's something we're going to record and we share out with our students and alumni, we can also share it out on JobSpeaker. But that gives students, when something comes up and they're maybe in our business program or our marketing program, and there's a marketing position with the company, and we know that we have a recording with that company, talking a little bit more about that company culture and what they do, we can share that to the students also, along with those positions, to give them an idea of, you know, this is the exciting environment that you'll be in. Does this sound like a good fit for you? So it just speeds up that, you know, kind of the speed of lightning, right? It speeds up that connection with the right people, because, you know, as an employer, that was probably one of the more stressful parts of my role, was trying to find the right salesperson, because I had the last company I had here in the States was a fairly small company. There was about 6 of us, but it had a high volume of work, and I had to have the right place. I know Jill and I have talked about this before too, you know, especially when it's a family-owned business, but any business, you want to make sure you have those right candidates, and it's tricky. Trying to find the right candidates can be really tricky. And so letting them have some insight into your culture and the advent that will be coming, and we'll be starting to do some highlights with our students and alumni that are completing their programs of study. If we have a fantastic candidate, we're going to be having video interviews with those candidates that we'll also be able to share with employers. So rather than me as a job developer just saying, oh my gosh, yeah, I've got a great candidate for you, I might be able to, you know, well, not might, I will, before the end of this school year, I'm going to be able to send you a little video clip of that candidate too, so that you can see a little bit of what we're seeing and why we think, with what we know about you and what we know about the student, why we think it's a good fit. And again, it's just to speed things up. Let's get you guys connected and productive and successful.
I like quick. That's why I know we'll finish on time at 10 o'clock. I like efficiency. Amongst every crisis we have ever is huge opportunity. And you hit the nail on the head in that we now have an opportunity to showcase our company in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. But when it's recorded, which we never did, or we rarely did before, now other people might find it 3 months down the road, 2 months down the road, a week down the road. We can reach more people. It's just like the opportunity I think the college has to continue to grow and be extraordinary and attract extraordinary world-class students because of online ed. I mean, so do we look at this as, oh no, we can't go back to school, or do we look at it as a shift, a crisis in which new opportunities are arisen to attract world-class students and world-class teachers? So fantastic point. Now I'm going to shift to Becki. Becki, I know you're talking about ROI next on commercial space. That's a passion of mine, and I'm involved in the executive suite business. But I also would love you to just comment briefly, and we didn't talk about this. Are you shifting any of the space you have to make it more user-friendly, if you will, to the employees, or shifting any of the space to be more creative in addition to what you're going to do with the space?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Actually, let me start with that first. What we did was we started to change the entire concept of our spaces to make it more collaborative, more creative, more social, acceptable, and make it a fun, well-balanced location for employees to come to work in. And we started this before this entire crisis happened. So unfortunately, we had to put a pause on that. But yes, that's a direction we're going to continue to go, because the space you have today is not how we're going to use it, how we used it in the past. We're definitely going to make the changes.
They almost demand that. They want the Apple building, right, here in Valencia, and they want that at the college in addition to the business in Valencia. And
oh, yeah.
So we started creating these spaces, and all of a sudden we got this new shift.
Yep, completely. It just put a whole wrench in everything, unfortunately. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the ROI piece of it. So as most people know, ROI is calculated based on annual return divided by total investment. So what we do is we review all the financial impacts associated to running the daily business. Includes your headcount, includes all your expenses associated to operating the business itself. We look at the capacity requirements. So now we have to look at the capacity requirements based on the 6-foot distancing requirement. So what does the capacity look like in the new space? And what is your needs in the new space? So again, this comes back to the percent of employees who are going to be working from home and working in the office, as well as flexible space for telecommuters. something that we're looking at. So if people are at home working on a regular basis and they can come in and pop in for a collaboration meeting or a presentation, they can come to the office and have their own space to work. You also need to consider where the growth is in the future too. Is there going to be growth? Are we going to continue to build the organization as we go? Operational costs, the running of the business, your utilities, janitorial, security, general repairs and maintenance, I mean, supplies, the list goes on. So this is all a factor in how you manage your ROI and you look at your space the way it is today. One thing we do need to look at is how you're going to set up your employees if they continue to work from home. How are you going to set up your employees' office at home? And do you have to, offer supplies to them like you offered it into in-house as well? Do you subsidize this? Do you make sure that they have their proper needs that they need in the business to run their business from home? A lot of things to consider in this space. One thing I want to leave as a last comment is reopening should be based on when the organization is ready, and each organization is going to be different. A premature opening has a really negative impact on your end result and the risk that it can cause future delays and setbacks.
Great. I love the fact that you addressed one thing that I think we're all going to be wondering is the air conditioning just jumped on. Do we pay for that? Do we pay for the Wi-Fi? What about the cell phone bill? All of that down the road, we got to consider that because we are asking them to complete a task. And I think that's so important. And thanks for the final comments. Gary, I want to come back to one thing briefly, but and then we'll have a few minutes for a final comment from for the last few guests. And Gary, I want you just to touch upon, now is the time to do those evaluations of the teams you have. And we talked about the bench players. We talked about the rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A. Now you're in the big leagues. Now you're in the company. Maybe cleaning the bench out a little bit, making some trades, making some trade ups, if you will. Can you address that real briefly? Because I think that's important. We look at that right now and look for additional talent for our teams.
Well, your point about being honest about it, you get environments that have been the same forever. The good old boys, the good old girls that have been together, worked together, had one or two subordinates. I think if you take a fresh look at it and really become critical, you as a peer of your other peers and constructively trying to approach this, if you're looking at what's the ROI that you want from your company, how do you compare to your peer group? You as a company, truly, what kind of growth, what kind of EBITDA, what kind of trends are you showing? I think if you're going to be honest, you've got to have some people that aren't pulling their weight anymore. And as you become honest about that, you, the executive team, you, the corner office CEO, you, the board, and insist on getting that practical look, I think then, it's pretty easy to go forward. We've had one client insist on an in-person meeting in the last 5 months in terms of hiring an executive. So for the last 8 or 10 searches we've done, we've had one client insist on that. And I think it's interesting. This was a UK based and owned corporation. We found the final candidate in Florida and hired the person here to Southern California. It doesn't have to mean you get on a plane. I think as you then get a chance to virtually meet with these folks, with panels, with board members, with ownership, you're able to then go find somebody that can replace that B- or C person with somebody that's going to take you forward. It's really a pleasure to be here. And again, go Dodgers.
Yeah, go Dodgers, go Dodgers. One last parting. One more set, James. I just want to get a parting comment from Keri, and then we're going to open up to questions. Just Keri, any final comments?
Just one thing, and I maybe I have a little bit of a different approach, as we're making these shifts and changes, but I have always focused on individual strengths. So in my own companies and in the department I run now, I'm a Gallup Clifton Strengths coach with my team and with the students. And when we're making shifts like this, again, I think this time is so exciting. I wouldn't necessarily look to see who I can get rid of. The way I approach things is looking at what are the strengths that each of the employees that I've invested so much in already, what strengths do they have? And how can I repurpose that in a way that's more effective, more efficient, gives them better job satisfaction, and increases the positive outcomes that I'm looking for.
Right.
So just that's in a nutshell, you know, focusing on individual strengths and tweaking those positions. I have 6 job developers. Not one of them has the same job. Each job is a little different because I've customized it based on where their strengths are, their approaches in the workforce.
Great, great. James, I'm going to turn it over to you with some open questions for the group.
Yeah, I just want, first of all, I want to thank our panelists and Fred. Some of you on the call may need to take, head off the call for a 10 o'clock meeting. With everyone's permission, we'll spend a few extra minutes answering some questions till about 10 after, if that is convenient for everyone. But for those of you on the call, thank you again for joining us. We invite you to come back next month on August 28th for an economic development roundtable discussion. And please take a moment and learn a little bit more about what the Chancellor Circle does, and to consider possibly joining us and continuing on in this effort to support the College of the Canyons in our community. I do have a couple questions coming in the chat, and Fred, feel free to monitor that chat as well, or even help to unmute people if you'd like to ask a question. I would like to bring up something for Becki. Becki, there's a couple of questions kind of about employee engagement coming in. So I'll go ahead and combine a couple of questions into one. In regards to how are you, in kind of this virtual landscape, how are you changing the branding for Princess Cruises to attract employees, as well as Keri spoke to a lot of early career development. Gary spoke a lot to executive career. How about Keri, speaking to how are you working with mid-career hiring and employees and kind of motivating that career change kind of in this current or post-COVID era?
So why don't we start with Becki on the first question?
Yeah, with regards to marketing the business, I mean, obviously that's not my forte, so I'll definitely have to kind of push that to a different area or a different marketing team. But I know as an organization, our branding and our messaging to individuals, to companies, to job seekers is very important to us. We look to make sure that we take pride in what we do, and we want to be the company of choice when it comes to the cruise industry. We try to remarket, we try to emphasize how we manage our employees, how we manage our guests, and make sure that we are the employer of choice. Unfortunately, that's not my forte, so.
Well, you guys will have a little bit of work ahead of you, unfortunately, due to circumstance, but I'm sure change will create a better organization long term. Keri, quick question, the second question, which is important. I never believe you start over. There is no such thing as starting over. You always start anew because you couldn't erase the experiences of the past. So let's talk about that mid-career change and what the universities do or the colleges doing for that.
Yeah, we have a lot of students, more now probably than ever, that are in that situation, and we're going to see more of that coming up. But oh my gosh, I mean, this is what got me into doing what I do in the first place, because you're designing your life. It's no straight path. And so, the shift we're making at the college now, hopefully, along at some point, I'd love to have the whole college be a very strengths-based college. And what we're already working on is helping, whether it's people returning saying, what do I do now? Or gosh, I'm in this job. I did this certificate before and I've been working in this industry. It's not a good fit for me. Help me, help me find something that I'm more passionate about. We don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? What did you like about what you were doing before? What didn't you like about it? If you could do anything, those big questions, if money was no object, what would you do? And you pull these pieces together to help them kind of create a picture. And then as a job developer, what we do then is we help highlight or spotlight different opportunities. Well, what about this company? Let me tell you a little bit about this and what they do, because that seems like that might be right what you're talking about. So, I've been reading, if any of you read What Color Is Your Parachute? I've been reading that since I was in 6th grade. That was the first time I got that book by Richard Bolles. I don't know if you can tell on the bookshelf behind me, but I've got probably about 12 of them up there because I go back and read them again. Unfortunately, he's not with us any longer as of a few years ago. But, really looking at their strengths, I think, is the key, because you don't lose your strengths. You just grow and develop them. You have interests and abilities, and those strengths are those things that you've developed. So don't throw them out. Take those things and figure out, how do I like to use them? How would I like to use those? You may really not like how you used them in one organization, but if you can get into a different organization doing something different that's a better fit for you, or a different role within the existing organization that you're in, it's a win for everybody. The employers are happy, the employee is happy. It's, that's the approach I would take.
I just love it. Shift happens, and look at people's strengths. If you just worry about everyone's strengths instead of weaknesses, you'll have an amazing organization. James, we're gonna end it there because I want to respect everybody's time. But I do want to say that one thing that this college really believes in, and that is triumphing over adversity and challenging times. Not only do we do great during great times, but we do great during challenging times, and that's what this is all about. So closing remarks from you, James, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be involved in this group. By the way, Ed Masterson, I moved over a little bit, adjusted my camera, so you can have a little bit of Coach Wooden. It's all yours, James.
Love it. Well, thank you all very much. I just wanted to say thank you again to the Valley Industry Association for your partnership in helping us promote these. Kathy, you are a constant advocate for what we're doing at the College of the Canyons and in the foundation, so thank you again. Thank you, Carly, who's on the call with us and from the foundation, and for your assistance. And of course, Dr. Van Hook for being with us as well. Be safe, everyone. Be kind to one another this week. We look forward to connecting with you next month on August 28th. And have a great weekend. Take care.